Hi, my name is Zai. I've played Quake for 18 years and counting, and I've reviewed over 50 gaming mice. Right now you're watching some highlights using the Cooler Master MasterMouse Pro L. This is an interesting mouse because if we look at the four main points, it has a top optical sensor in the 3360, Omron Switches with a good amount of tension on the buttons, it's a safe ambidextrous shape with buttons on both sides, and it doesn't weigh too much over 100 grams. The problem with the mouse is it should have been better. In fact, this should have been a top 10 recommendation. I'll explain why as I give you the details of the mouse. It's still quite good, but I hope Cooler Master takes what I say on board and makes the changes for the next version. To begin, this is what you get in the box, some extra panels and a shell. I'll get to that later. Here's a look at the shape so you know what we're talking about here. As I said, it's ambidextrous and a safe shape, with plenty of room for your fingers, a groove for your thumb and fingers on the other side, and a ledge to assist with picking it up. It even has some nice finger grooves. 3 medium mouse feet that glide smoothly, all very good so far. The weight is a little questionable, at about 107 grams. But here it is next to some other mice. Because it's in the medium to large category, it's not too bad. I'd say it should be 100 grams though. That would be the optimal weight, and the weight distribution feels more toward the back, but it's fairly balanced. You'll note that the button slope is gradual, and the hump is fairly central, and it's about 3.5 centimeters high. The grip width is fairly narrow at about 5.7 centimeters, and the base length is about 11 centimeters. Very close to the 2:1 ratio, but the interesting dimension here is the shell, because it's fairly long at 13 centimeters. What does all this mean? Well, basically it's a medium to large fingertip grip mouse, or claw grip. Smaller hands could palm grip it, but the buttons on the side might be too far forward, or they might just get in the way. This is where modular design on the buttons would have helped. I'd say it's ideal for people with 19 centimeter hands for claw and fingertip grip, but check the size guide. It's rough, but it can suit other hand sizes too. As I mentioned, it's modular. You can remove the panels, but it's just the sides. I guess if you're into 3D printing, you could make your own, but for the rest of us, this doesn't have much use. It could have been great if we could remove the buttons though. Speaking of the buttons, here's a listen to the clicks. Left and right have a good amount of travel and tension, no accidental clicks so far, and I think they're suitable to FPS. I'm a bit concerned about MOBA. The slight problem here is that I can feel the shell flexing at the back. This could be avoided by having the button separate from the shell. It's okay though, I don't notice it in game too much. Middle click has a bit more tension, it feels normal. The good news is that while it scrolls smoothly, it has obvious steps too, 24 of them, so this should suit games and web browsing. Side buttons have very little travel, but they have a distinct plasticky feel to them. They're okay, nothing bad, nothing special. And the DPI button is underneath for some reason. In the latency testing, it seems to perform like the G900 in the human test, but the G900 has the advantage in the knock test. Neither test is accurate, so I'd say they perform well. And overall, the buttons are good. They could just do with some improvements. Now, testing the implementation of the 3360 sensor, obviously it's good for rocket jumping, and because it's a top sensor, I'm expecting it to be near perfect. I can't make it spin out, even with the tilt slam test. All good there. And in the sniper test, it tracks pixel by pixel, and it's as smooth as expected, tested at 400 and 1600 DPI. For acceleration and deceleration, I can't find anything too noticeable, but then I don't have an accurate test. All I can say is that in-game, it seemed to work well for me. The lift-off distance is under 1 DVD when set to low, and about 1 DVD when set to high, and that's on a hard and a soft pad. As far as I can tell, there's no delay, it's quite responsive. I also tested the 360, and it tracked the same amount of distance as other mice. And in the line test, there's no jitter, no angle snapping, and no skipping. However, the lift-off movement is a bit odd, and it might be because this copy has a rattling lens. I have tested another copy, and it had it as well, so it's not just this one. We've called it sensor rattle in the past, and I don't know what it is exactly, but this was fairly common on the Logitech G303. I've spoken to Cooler Master about it, and they're looking into it, so hopefully they fix it in the next batches. I didn't really notice it in game, so it's up to you how big a deal you want to make out of it. For me though, I returned my G303 because of the rattle. Although that was so bad, anytime I moved the mouse it would rattle. This one seemed okay in general use, so I wasn't going to make a big deal out of it. So overall, a very good performance, just the rattle needs to be addressed. Let me know in the comments if you get one, and if it has the rattle. For build quality, when tapping it, I can hear something, and when shaking it, even holding in all the buttons, there is something rattling. That's most likely the lens rattle. The texture is fairly smooth, it's all plastic, and it didn't feel slippery to me. But I generally don't have issues with sweat. You might get more grip with the replacement sides. which have a different coating on them, although they are still plastic. The cable is 1.8 meters and braided, but it's not as flexible or as smooth as it should be. It's manageable, but could definitely be better. On the base there are 3 medium mouse feet, and they feel like they glide smoothly. They look like they have scratches for some reason, but that hasn't affected me. In the software you can rebind the buttons with mouse functions, macro, keyboard, media, and some extras like rapid fire. Then there's the Storm TX commands, which almost doubles the amount of buttons the mouse has. It's an RGB mouse that has smooth color cycling, and you have some other options like static and breathing. The DPI range is 100 to 12,000 in increments of 100. And lastly, unfortunately the software randomly sets the sensitivity at full, or 7 out of 11, which is just annoying and unnecessary. The mouse has onboard memory to store all your settings and profiles though. Now for some highlights while I give my conclusion. This is definitely a step in the right direction for Cooler Master mice. While it has its faults, it's a much better mouse than the Sentinel 3. Hopefully in the next version of this, they'll make the buttons separate from the shell. Forget the replaceable shell thing, it's not worth it. And if they're going to make it modular, they should let us remove the side buttons too. The DPI button would be better on top, and hopefully they can get it under 100 grams. A more flexible, smooth rubber cable would be better too, like the one on the Alcor. However, all that in mind, I can aim fairly well with it. It's a great shape with the top sensor, good buttons, great scroll wheel. The problem is the asking price. It's just too much to choose this over the competition. Given the quality concerns, I'd suggest pricing it at about $50 on Amazon. At the time of this review, it's $72. So in short, I like what I'm seeing. It's a good mouse, but it needs some work before being a top recommendation. It definitely has potential to get there though. If you'd like to help support the channel and they lower the price or you want one anyway, I'll leave some links in the description as always. Special thanks to Cooler Master for sending this out for a review, and as always, subscribe, share, like this video, and I'll catch you in the next.
Impressive. Last standing. Impressive. Red wins the round. Accuracy.